whether we are defaulting or we are paying, because this particular issue affects the economy of the country.
Our finance will give a statement to this effect. I can also assure the honorable member that this country is not defaulting. I thank you.
Meaning treat everybody equally.
Equally, yeah.
I have already defaulted with some other creditors.
Welcome to I Stand for Zambia with the Man Will. If you're joining us for the first time, kindly subscribe and click on the notification bell so that every time we post, you will be notified. To all those that have already subscribed, thank you so very much for showing us your support. God bless you.
Bondholders were supposed initially to vote on our request for a standstill on the 30th of October, but they were not able to make a quorum, so they deferred that decision.
And gave you a grace period to pay your coupon?
No, they deferred it to 13th of November. That deferment has nothing to do with the grace period, just that it coincided with the grace period. Really, as I mentioned, we were supposed to have made the payment on the 14th
of October.
And it's embedded within the agreement that you have a grace period of 30 days. So by the 13th of November, that date would, the grace period would then be over. When they failed to make a quorum, they then moved the date to the 13th of November, which then coincided with the end of the grace period, if you like. Okay? Now, that adjournment of the meeting, for us, we saw it as an opportunity for the committee of bondholders and ourselves to now go into more detail in terms of the information they wanted. But the information they wanted required a very elaborate information relating to the loans that we have with other creditors. The view and position of the other creditors was, okay, you can do it, but you must first have a confidentiality agreement with the bondholders. And you can understand that. You can understand why. So we prepared a confidentiality agreement, which we had hoped they will read, examine, before they actually go to vote. There was enough time for them to do that before they vote. And the idea was that once they have agreed to that document, the confidentiality agreement, then we will give them all the information that we are holding on to, but which we couldn't give because the creditors required that memorandum to be signed. But as it turned out, they didn't sign, and the vote took place. The vote took place. But our position still is...
And they voted to reject your request for a standstill. Yeah. And now, we want to get government's position on the matter. Yeah. Are you paying the $42.5 million?
This is exactly what I was explaining to you. The choice, this wasn't a simple choice to make. It was not a simple decision to make. Let me get back to what I said earlier on. What I said earlier on is that I have written to all the creditors, and as a consequence of that, we have started engaging with all the creditors. I think you saw recently that the China Development Bank have already agreed to a debt service standstill. We're still engaging a few more others. Now, the issue of paying bondholders alone is a fundamental problem with the other creditors. And remember this, the bondholders make up only 1/3 of my debt stock, right? It's $3 billion that I'm owing in the three notes, the 2022, 2024, and 2027. I have the other balance. The other balance is commercial creditors, some multilateral lenders like the World Bank, African Development
Your other
Bank,
balance is probably sitting at $9 billion.
Yeah. Now, the moment, I'm very mindful of this fact, the moment I pay the $42 million dollars to the bondholders, that moment, the moment I do that, my entire conversation with all the other creditors collapses. They will not be interested in discussing. They will just take a view that, look, in the same way you're treating those guys, treat us. Which is why, Now, I told you before that I don't have the capacity to pay all of them because of the challenges that we spoke about. So if I find myself in a position where they say, we're not going to talk to you until you pay us, how are we going to make progress? Which is why we thought that a debt standstill, which involves everybody, is the best way of proceeding with dealing with the challenge of the debt.
So there are two things I wanted you to answer very clearly. One, have we defaulted? And I know you did explain a lot of things.
Yeah.
Two, are you forcing a debt standstill on the Euro bondholders?
Let me first answer
they've rejected that, but you're saying you're not going to pay them. So clearly, you're forcing that on them. You shall not pay. That's the position.
Well, yes, we shall not pay because of the principle of pari passu. There are other. I need to mention this to you.
The principle of pari passu meaning
treat everybody equally.
Equally, yeah.
I have already defaulted with some other creditors. I've told you I've been building arrears with some other creditors, and they're upset that I'm building arrears with them while I continue to service the Eurobond. That's what the problem is. You can't continue with a situation where you pick one set of creditors and treat them differently from the others in this kind of situation. Now, the question is...
Would it be unfair for you to treat commercial lenders the same way you're going to treat bilateral lenders? I mean, a country can afford to defer, even write off your debt. I mean,
bilateral
the
lenders,
debt you owe to, for instance, the government of Rwanda or another country. I mean, they can easily write off.
You've confused yourself.
But when you talk about these guys that are on the market,
you have confused.
Different set.
You have confused yourself there. Bilaterals are different, and I told you bilaterals are already subject to the G20 arrangement. I'm talking about commercial lenders. Commercial lenders are banks who have nothing to do with any government. They're normal banks which lend out money. And in the
so you have commercial lenders who have already given you a grace period, who have already given you a debt standstill.
No. It's up until now, it's only the Chinese Development Bank that has agreed. The others we're still discussing. We are in this process of discussion. And the reason we haven't made much traction is that everybody was waiting to see what we do with the bondholders. They were sitting there waiting. This is an opportunity for you to show to us that you're serious about what you're saying, which is that